A migration to being preoccupied with how we engage the built environment and make it more responsible really began, back in the late 60s when I was working here in Portland as an urban planner, and we were just starting to look at some of the stuff that Ian McHarg was developing out of the University of Pennsylvania in terms of looking at the landform that we build our communities on, and mapping the flora and fauna and the streams and the geology, and doing these overlays and really trying to get a better understanding of the land and how we impacted it with our development. And so I went back to graduate school to the University of Pennsylvania and was there in 1970 for the first Earth Day. And I found that very impactful as well. But, then spent, damn near 30 years in the hinterlands, being frustrated with how do you translate some of this knowledge into our everyday actions, and particularly into business. Because environment and business or economy were always viewed as, never the twain shall meet. And, and I was convinced that there had to be a better way. So in 97, I went to a natural step workshop here in Portland, and Dr. Karl Heinrich Robert, the founder of the Natural Step, did an all-day workshop, and it was like an epiphany. It was like all of a sudden, the stars aligned, and I could see how you could align best business practices with what's best for the planet. And, and so that really was, kind of a hallmark period as far as I was concerned. And fortunately, I was with a company, Gerding Edlen Development, that was really open to how do we improve and do a more responsible job of creating the built environment. And the core philosophy of Gerding Edlen was that everything we do has to have a lasting beneficial impact on the communities in which we build. And so it was an easy translation to go from that to then thinking about, okay, if it's got to be better for the communities in which we build, it also has to be better for the planet in every way. And, and so then it's migrated from there. And so we've, as a company, built, had a core philosophy from the very beginning that was where it was a natural fit. And so I think we satisfied ourselves that we could pursue environmentally responsible strategies and still be a successful business. What we're realizing, two things. Number one, we've historically built new buildings, new development, and it's great if you can do a new building and make it a LEED Platinum building or even a living building. But what do we do about the 99.5% of the built environment that already exists? And how do we transform that? Because, if we're talking about getting to carbon neutral by 2030, that means that every building on the planet has to reduce its energy footprint by 70 to 80%. Every building. How are we going to do that in 20, 30 years? That's, so what we're realizing is that, it's great to do nice new buildings. You got those bright, shiny objects everybody always gets attracted to, but we really need to focus on the existing infrastructure buildings that we have and figuring out how do you drive the consumption in those buildings, not just of energy, but of water and materials, and how do you process the waste, and do all that in incredibly efficient ways over an incredibly short period of time. So that's one message. The second and more powerful realization that we've had is that we can build great buildings like the Cyanas, is a really top quality, environmentally responsible building. But if we don't get the people that occupy the building to understand their relationship to the building and the systems in it and how to engage in improving their own behavior, we haven't accomplished anything. So it's really all about our behavior as human beings. And the human species is often referred to as the rational species, bull. We don't use our rational mind for making decisions, you know. I think most of our decisions are made by our reptilian brain, you know, that was in place, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions of years before we developed our frontal cortex. So, you know, I think we have to get a better understanding about how do we make those decisions? What are the things that drive us to choose the actions that we take? And get a better understanding of the relationship between our personal decisions and giving feedback to people. I think if we can figure out how to give creative feedback to people that they can interpret easily, then they'll make the decisions themselves about how to improve their behavior. It's like driving a Prius. I happen to own a Prius, right? You're always driving by that damn little bar graph, right? That's telling you how good you're doing. You know, and of course you piss off all the people behind you, you know, because you're driving slower, you know, you're creeping up to the next stoplight, or you're easing off in the gas as you're going up a hill, you know, so you barely crest the hill. And but it's all about changing, you know, it's like you're determined that you're going to improve the mileage this week from what you did last week. Now we start doing that in all of our buildings as well, you know, and it's like I was mentioning before, if we took the 4 system conditions of the natural step and made an iPhone app out of those so that everybody could monitor their performance instantly and get feedback on their behavior, wouldn't that be phenomenal? You know, because I think you know, the future is in figuring out how do we appropriately apply technology to help us make this transition.
Innovation. Explore some more of your innovation and solution.
Yeah. Well, the challenge is that it's hard work. When you start talking about changing behavior, changing how you do business, the normal things we do, it's hard work. And I think we're naturally inclined to be somewhat lazy and to resist change. And so, you know, that's the real dilemma, I think. I've felt it personally. You know, it's like when I first got involved with the natural step and figuring out how to engage those practices into what we were doing in terms of building buildings. It was like, give me a matrix, give me a simple equation that I can apply, you know, so it just laid out for me. Well, that's not the way the natural step works. It's like you have to figure it out for yourself, and it's damned hard work. And so the frustration is you know, can we make it more attractive and practical and applicable and appealing? And I think that's the real challenge for all of us that are trying to help migrate the population of this planet towards living in a more responsible and sustainable way. I think we've done a terrible job of engaging the average person in what it's about and helping them get passionate about it. I believe that ultimately it all comes down to people and the relationships that we have with people and building honest and ethical relationships and treating people in the right way. And I think if you do that and you start to apply that to everything you do, then it makes it pretty easy. You don't have those moral dilemmas, if you will, that come up because you know you have a clear idea of what you want to accomplish with your life.